Ex-Legislators TV. News in your pocket.
And now we're going to be switching guests to Birnin Kebbi with Honorable Hamza Nano Bello, a former legislator, talking on ex-legislators and building of democracy in Nigeria. Good morning and welcome to the program. Barrister Hamza Bello, are you there?
Yes, I'm there. I can hear you very well.
All right, thank you for joining us this morning on the program. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you.
All right, so ex-legislators and building of democracy in Nigeria. Now, first of all, in what specific ways would you say that ex-legislators have contributed in democracy and democratic practices in Nigeria?
First of all, I would want to start by defining the democracy itself and the two keywords there. Ex-legislators or legislators and democracy. Democracy, as we all know, is the government of the people, by the people, for the people. And to a great extent, you and I believe that democracy has no preferred alternative anyway, because I believe you also know where I'm taking you to. The worst of all democratic governance is far better and preferred than the best military system of governance in the world over, and that one cannot be disputed at all. Now, coming back to the second keyword, legislature is an arm of government that deals with enactment of laws to guide the dealings of government itself. Now, if rule of law is anything to go by, you definitely will believe me that, and as an ex-legislator, you would have contributed in establishing and enacting laws that will help the nation to guide day-to-day life of every citizen in Nigeria. And Nigeria as a state will definitely need legislation for it to function very well. And democracy cannot even stand without the rule of law. Therefore, if at all the two can be matched together, that is the role that an ex-legislator would have played in making sure that democracy is sustained, is definitely overwhelming, that we cannot continue to say, we cannot underestimate the efforts of legislators both serving and ex, particularly when we are talking about the ex. They have done extremely well in establishing laws that will go a long way in putting things right in Nigeria. Like when you say rule of law in Nigeria, by principle, it is supposed to be that everybody should be equal before the law. Equality before the law in Nigeria, to some extent, we can say we have reasonably achieved, because in the past, you don't dare prosecute somebody who is highly placed. When his economic and social status are very high, you cannot bring him before the law. But I'm sure you and I have heard, even governors, past governors, were tried, prosecuted, and convicted, and imprisoned even. So to a great extent, we can understand that the ex-legislators have played a vital role. Ex-legislators could be in the state and could be at the national level there, because House of Representatives are there and the senators are there. They are all legislators. And in the state, we have state houses of assembly, and their main and critical role is to establish laws for day-to-day running of the life of Nigerian citizens.
All right. Now, when we talk about establishing laws, how would you say, these laws that are being established are being implemented? Because it's one thing to establish laws, and it's another thing for the laws to be implemented.
Laws are meant to be implemented. And to a great extent, we would say we have started achieving what it is aimed to be achieved. Because in the past, laws are just made there and no implementation whatsoever. But I'm telling you, these days, laws are implemented. And an example I will give you is what I cited some minutes ago. I said, even governors, that I can remember about 3 of them, they were charged to court for money laundering, for financial misappropriations, and things related there too, have been prosecuted successfully and they were convicted. So if a past governor who is the number one citizen in his own state can be charged to court, prosecuted successfully, and be convicted, to a great extent, we can see our laws that have been made for the Nigerian citizens are being implemented. And we will have some little misgivings of some corrupt persons that are placed, highly placed, where the laws are supposed to be implemented. But to a great extent, when you compare the number of what is being done successfully and in the right manner as enshrined in our laws, definitely we will say we would have achieved in better times more than many African countries.
All right, now we know that ex-legislators, should serve as mentors to the current lawmakers. So now, how important would you say that the mentorship roles of these ex-legislators help when it comes to strengthening legislative capacity among current lawmakers?
To a reasonable extent, I will say what you said is what ought to be, but not what is obtainable. Definitely, present legislators do not see ex-legislators as their mentors at all, because there is rift of rivalry between them. And there is one problem in the country which everybody knows. These vices are not more than favoritism, nepotism, and other godfatherism. So sometimes legislators come into being by favoritism, not by qualification at all. When we were there in the Kebbi State House of Assembly, I know there are persons that I wouldn't say they were not qualified, because the party cleared them before they contested and won the seat before they came to the House. But definitely you will see the minimum requirement of what is expected of a legislator is even absent in them. So what is happening today in the present legislature is that they don't respect the past legislators as anything. Assuming we were in the military, somebody who was there before you should be your senior, and you should learn and make him a mentor, because he would have known a lot of things before you, and probably he will have excelled during his time in the process of lawmaking. But you are just coming on board and you didn't know anything and you didn't want to ask. And if you didn't want to ask, you don't want mentorship, you definitely will not progress. And that is why sometimes you have problems here and there. You have rancor in the house. The way the relationship between the executive and the legislators is poor, because they lack mentorship. They believe they have come on board and now they have arrived. Therefore, there is nobody that can guide their thinking, and nobody can tell them this is how these things are done. And that is our basic problem. But assuming there is coherence between the past and the present legislatures, things would have been better, and there will be decorum in both governance at the executive level and even at the level of the lawmaking, because things will have synergy. But as it is, a present member will see himself as a demigod. You don't dare come close to him because he has arrived. That is what he believes. Whether he knows what he is doing as a lawmaker or he doesn't know, whether he's a seat warmer, some of them do not even attend sessions in the plenary. So they will just be answering the name as honorable, honorable in court. Because by the time you lack honorability in your presentations, in your maturity of presentation, you are definitely just an honorable member by mere principles.
So now you've stated the problem as to why what ought to be isn't what is. So now what would you say is the solution to this problem to create a synergy between previous legislators and the present ones?
Okay, there will seemingly be a single solution that I think can be brought forth if the party try to create a synergy between the two, like a sort of an orientation that, look, whatever you think you are, if you are serving, the former would have known those things better than you. And by the time you relate, now it will bring a very good relationship. I remember there is one history book that I read by Professor E.H. Carr. He said, if you don't know the past, you wouldn't know the present and you wouldn't know how to relate to the future. Now, if the present can relate with the past, the both of them can focus into the future and know that this is likely going to be the situation and the scenario of the lawmaking in the state or at the national level, as the case may be. But by the time there is no synergy between the two, there is no cooperation, and each one sees himself as an island, and sees himself as an embodiment of either knowledge of or relationship, whatever you call it. Because sometimes when they are there, they're not bragging of knowledge, but they are so proud of themselves because they are being elected by their electorates, and because they are now in power, you don't come close to them. So if the party can bring both of them, what I mean, the party that brings any of the legislators into power will invite the past and the present to unite them together and make them understand we are working towards one thing, to enshrine the democratic principles and values. And what we want is this and that and that. That will be the solution to the present situation while the two are at par.
All right, now talking about the democracy and also putting laws or making parties to um, make the present lawmakers understand what the process is about. What have ex-legislators done about this when it comes to advocating for democratic accountability and transparency? Because all of this, you've mentioned issues like nepotism, favoritism, even among the lawmakers, and it trickles down even among the citizens. So what is being done? What role does the ex-legislators play when it comes to holding accountability and transparency in democracy?
Okay, like a day before, we happened to sit with our people's governor, that is the governor of my own state, Kebbi State, in person of Comrade Dr. Nasir Idris Gaurang Wendu. He sat with the forum of ex-legislators, and we spoke with him at length. He also brought out things that, look, democracy and the principles of democratic governance as enshrined in our laws cannot be properly sustained if past legislatures will not be put into the proper picture of things. And that we hailed him and we told him we are really ready and willing to make sure that as past legislators, we put across to the minds of the serving that we need to put our heads together, bearing in mind that we were once there and people elected us. And no matter how bad an ex-legislator is, definitely he would have had people that are ready to go with him wherever he's going. And therefore, each and every one of us would have had long queues of people behind him, just like the serving. So by the time we put our minds together and understand we have a common goal, i.e., sustaining the democratic values and principles, it will solve the problem of all that we have mentioned. Definitely, when the two sits together and understand I have a role to play in making sure democratic governance sees the light of the day and it will continue to be sustained. Definitely, I will play my role, play your own role, and the citizen will understand that definitely his own rights are being preserved and protected for his own well-being. Therefore, he will also take care of all his obligations because his own rights were given to him. Therefore, he will be mindful of his own obligations and moral standards of the society.
All right. Now, from what I understand from what you have said, it seems as if once legislators leave office and it seems as if they are no longer do I say as influential or as relevant as opposed to those who are still or who are the current lawmakers? Now, do you think that Nigeria should adopt systems whereby former legislators remain influential, maybe in positions such as a policy consultant or lobbyist? Do you think that is something that can work with our political space?
Definitely, it can work. And if it works, it will help the democracy or democratic system very well. Because if one who has acquired a vast experience about democratic governance, particularly in the legislature, he definitely will have a leading role to play when it comes to consultancy services to be provided in the lawmaking. Now, if past legislatures are made as consultants as far as the lawmaking process is concerned, it will definitely go a long way in solving the present problems that we are having. And and they will they will not cease to be, they will no longer be what they are today. To some extent, just like you said, sometimes by the time you leave that seat, you become irrelevant as far as the present serving members are concerned. They don't invite you for anything. They don't discuss with you for anything. And you go back to the same constituency that elected you and him, he will still believe he is no longer there. After all, I'm the one that has money. I'm the one that will give you this. He has nothing. Maybe he has only ideas. Maybe he has only ideas. He may be more educated than the present, but because he is the one now that is receiving what we call stipends, he will have more relevance to his people than you that have vast experience. So maybe if in any way past legislatures, like we have forum, we are discussing issues that can bring about sustainability in our democratic systems. And one of the issues, like I'm their legal advisor here in the Kebbi State branch, and one of the issues we are discussing is we even had a session between us and the present serving members of the legislature. We told them, look, as long as you serve, you will not forever remain there. One time you will answer former member of the House of Assembly. So come and have some time with us and understand that there are things you need to do while you are there, so that you don't come back and become a stranger in your own community, because many of them will cut off their relationships and everything with even the people that voted them, with some of us that were there before them, that will need to even give them little guide as to what they will go and meet, what they will go and do, and all those things. So maybe, like you said, if it can be suggested that we be made only relevant by the time there is an established status for us that we should be consultants to serving lawmakers. Whoever was once there should come and contribute. There should be a database where persons can be picked from anywhere. I know when I was there, a former member in Sokoto State, was invited in our induction course. He was the one that was giving us lectures in the induction course, and he said, look, as a member of the legislature, you should know that there is no how you will have permanent peace between you and the executives. And if you think you have peace, then something is wrong between either you and them, or between you and the people you are representing. Definitely, he taught us many things and how we go about even budget appropriation. Some of us went to the house until they left there. They didn't know anything as financial misappropriation. Budget appropriation, because they were not there during the induction course and they were not paying attention as to know what is the role of a member of the legislature.
All right. Now, there seems to be a disconnect between citizens and lawmakers. So, do you think that ex-legislators have any role to play in creating that synergy, or bringing it closer to the citizens, so that it doesn't seem so far away? When they say lawmakers are, over there making the laws and attending plenary meetings, and the citizens are, waiting to hear what it is they have to say. What do ex-legislators do to bridge that gap?
Virtually, ex-legislators have little or no virtually anything that can be done to bridge that gap. But there like religious institutions, traditional institutions can play a role in trying to curb the issue of disconnect between the society and the intercitizenry and the elected legislators. For example, I was once asked by a religious gathering to present a paper on what solves the problem of this disconnect between those that elected the member of legislature and his electorate. I said, look, you have to get a binding force, and the binding force is at the time they are canvassing for your votes, at the time they are coming to demand your mandate. Tell them that you have a file of things that you would want them to do for you, and that should not go out of their own responsibilities as lawmakers. Now, if you enter into any agreement with any of the legislators and he happened to violate any of the agreement as society members or leaders or heads, like I said, if it is a traditional institution that will sit somebody that is looking for a particular electoral office, and most especially legislator at either state or national level, he should be made to know that he has roles to play. And by the time he gets, this is what we expect him to do. If he cannot do it, then we will tell you, we will not vote you. Instead, we will vote for somebody. Come and give us your own things that you have, the idea what you have, what necessitated your even coming to contest.
All right. We have run out of time, Barrister Hamza Nano Bello, but thank you so much for this wonderful conversation. Thank you.
I'm grateful.
All right, and with that, we've come to the end of the show this morning. Thank you for staying with us and for joining us all through from our newspaper headlines up till now. I am Uchenna Chimdi Olwoha, and coming up next is Political Circle.